Let a human be created, who can carry the burden of the gods. Teach humankind the tasks of the world. Atrahasis Epic, First Tablet, Ancient Mesopotamia. Could the progress of humanity have been influenced by visitors from beyond our world? It is said that the Mesopotamian god Enki shared the foundations of civilization, music, law, and agriculture with humankind. In Babylonian tradition, a strange figure called Oannes was described as the teacher of every art and science. According to the Book of Enoch, fallen angels revealed forbidden skills to humanity. Even among the legends of the Amazon rainforest, there are stories of a shining figure clad in metallic clothing who shared knowledge of medicine, hunting, and home building. Were these stories only myths created to explain the origins of civilization? Or could they be fading memories of forgotten encounters with otherworldly beings? We will now explore fascinating tales from many cultures that describe non-human beings descending to Earth and passing on their wisdom. We will also ask fundamental questions. Why did these beings leave? Could they truly have come from another world? The idea may sound extraordinary, but searching for evidence is worth keeping an open mind. Accepting or rejecting the possibility is up to you. Everyone must reach their own conclusions. For if you believe you already hold the absolute truth, then you have stopped searching. Enki and the World Order is a Sumerian poem written nearly 5,000 years ago. It tells how Enki, also known as Anki, the god of wisdom, gave humanity divine powers that shaped society. These divine gifts encompassed the arts, crafts, laws, rituals, and essential knowledge for the progress of civilization. Modern archaeology interprets this myth as a symbol of knowledge itself, representing the gods as the foundation of social order. The rise of Mesopotamian civilizations was likely a gradual process, not the result of external intervention. Yet some modern theories claim the Anunnaki were real beings from other worlds who created humanity and passed down skills. Before diving into the deepest questions about these gods, we will first explore other traditions of mysterious visitors who appear on Earth to share knowledge. The Indian epic Ramayana recounts sages and divine beings offering sacred teachings to human heroes. The sage Vishvamitra taught advanced combat, the use of divine weapons, and the duties of moral law. In the Mahabharata, Krishna acts as the universal teacher guiding humanity in life and action. Warrior masters like Drona and Parashurama impart skills of battle and celestial weaponry. But perhaps the most astonishing elements of Indian texts are the Vimanas, flying vehicles that traveled across both sky and land. One famous example is the Pushpaka Vimana, described in Book 5 of this chariot, adorned with gold and precious stones, soared freely through the skies, rising and descending at will. Some accounts even describe Vimanas traveling through cosmic realms. Historians interpret Vimanas as symbols of divine power and the effortless passage between heaven and earth. But within the framework of the ancient astronaut theory, they might be advanced craft from extraterrestrial civilizations. Were Vimanas a lost human technology or alien spacecraft? No physical remains have ever been found to prove their existence. In the Brazilian Amazon, the Kayapo people tell of Bep Kororoti, a mythical visitor. He descended amid thunder, wind, and a dazzling light, wearing metallic clothing like armor and carrying a staff of energy. At first, the villagers feared him, unsure whether he was spirit or enemy. But over time, he shared knowledge of medicine, farming, hunting, and house building. Eventually, Bep Kororoti departed, disappearing in a flash of light as he ascended back into the skies. From an anthropological perspective, this story is seen as a way to explain the origins of the Kyopo's technologies, social customs, and essential knowledge. Other authors have interpreted it as evidence of an extraterrestrial visit. The shining outfit would be a spacesuit. the staff a technological tool, and the departure into the sky, the takeoff of a spacecraft. Among the indigenous peoples of the Arctic, especially the Inuit of Alaska, Greenland, and Canada, there are legends of beings who came from the sky. They tell of fiery chariots or sleds that descended, glowing from the heavens, landing near villages. Some stories mention humming sounds or complete silence accompanied by mysterious lights. In the Canadian Arctic, elders recall a fire kayak descending from the sky on a starry night, illuminating the tundra as if it were daytime. From inside emerged a tall being in a shining cloak, with pale skin and large bright eyes, who spoke without moving his mouth. He hovered slightly above the ground instead of walking. Among the Yupik of western Alaska, one tale tells of a great storm where a bright light descended like a falling star. From the radiance emerged a humanoid wrapped in light who taught the ancestors food preservation, star reading, and proper offerings to keep balance in the world. Afterward, he rose into his luminous canoe, which spun and shot upward into the sky. These unusual stories were documented by explorers like Knud Rasmussen and anthropologists such as Anne Finup Riordan. Anthropologists often view them as symbolic tales about natural forces, yet the resemblance to modern UFO reports is striking. In the ancient Irish Book of Invasions, it is told how the Tuatha De Danann arrived in dark clouds that covered Ireland for 3 days and nights. They defeated the former inhabitants and claimed the land. They were described as tall, beautiful beings radiating supernatural light, wearing luxurious garments and carrying magical objects. They came as conquerors, but also as teachers and civilizers, controlling weather, fertility, and natural forces. Their powers included shape-shifting, healing, and feats impossible for ordinary humans. They excelled in music, poetry, metallurgy, building, and social organization. Later, when the Milesians, ancestors of the Irish, arrived, the Tuatha were defeated and retreated underground. Historians see them as mythic civilizing heroes, while others argue they could represent superior outsiders with advanced technology. A bolder interpretation is that they were extraterrestrial beings, whose real arrival eventually turned into legend. In Mali, Africa, the Dogon people tell of the Nomo, hybrid fish-human beings linked to the star Sirius. Their myths, recorded in the book The Pale Fox, 1965, mention both Sirius A, visible to the eye, and Sirius B, which is invisible without telescopes. How could the Dogon have known about Sirius B before 1862? Some suggest extraterrestrial contact, others colonial influence. In the belief systems of indigenous peoples in northwestern Australia, especially around the Kimberley, there exist sacred beings tied to the land itself. In their worldview, the Weena are creator spirits who shaped the earth and brought forth plants, animals, and humankind. After fashioning the world, these beings either merged back into country or ascended to the sky, leaving traces upon stone. Kimberley rock art portrays them with pale faces, wide dark eyes, sometimes without mouths, and often ringed by a halo. For local communities, these are not mere pictures. They are living presences anchored to the very sites where they were painted. Across the Great Plains and the southwest of North America, many traditions, Lakota, Dakota, Ojibwe, and the Hopi among them, remember the Star People. These visitors are described as tall, at times radiant, with skin so pale and luminous it seems to reflect the night sky. Some stories emphasize their large, expressive eyes and the kindness in their gaze. Others speak of robed figures glowing with light, hair like silver, or beings so pure and brilliant that distinct facial features disappear. The Hopi associate them with specific constellations, including the Pleiades, and say they could alter their appearance, sometimes taking on human form to interact with people. at other times remaining ethereal, like shimmering shadows or golden winds. Are these star people symbols of cosmic energy, personifications of nature, or emissaries from distant worlds? The traditions leave the question open. In southern Mesopotamia, Babylon entered a cultural and economic high point roughly 4,000 years ago. Its lore includes the Tower of Babel, an origin tale for linguistic diversity, and also a narrative about a semi-divine teacher emerging from the sea to gift humanity every art and science. The 3rd century BCE priest Berosus describes Oannes with a fish's body and a human head. By day he rose from the waters of the Persian Gulf to instruct the people in writing, mathematics, agriculture, architecture, and law, everything that would underpin Mesopotamian civilization. And at night, he returned to the sea. His amphibious nature symbolizes passage between water and land, ignorance and civilization. Centuries later, a cautious astrophysicist would argue that some ancient myths could echo real events, including meetings with non-human intelligences, while still insisting such ideas require hard evidence and rigorous, skeptical inquiry. Comparisons are often drawn between Mesopotamia and ancient Egypt. Both societies were sharply hierarchical, both honored many deities linked to natural forces, and both raised monumental architecture, ziggurats in one, pyramids in the other. Egyptian lore includes figures with roles similar to Oannes. Thoth, patron of hieroglyphs and knowledge, typically shown with the head of an ibis or a baboon, and Osiris, the bringer of agriculture, law, and social order. Some theorists stitch these parallels into a grand narrative about culture-bearing visitors, while mainstream archaeology explains them through human commonalities, exchange, and migration, rather than extraterrestrial intervention. Mesopotamian literature does not only tell of gods descending, it also imagines mortals ascending. In the old Akkadian Etana legend, a king rides a great eagle sent by Shamash to seek a life-giving plant. From high above, he describes the earth shrinking to a hill and the sea narrowing to a canal, a striking, almost aerial perspective. Scholars see poetry shaped by mountain vistas and imagination. Fringe readers see a memory trace of high-altitude flight. Within ancient astronaut storytelling, the Anunnaki are said to have arrived hundreds of thousands of years ago, founded cities, engineered humans as a labor force to mine gold for repairing their planet's atmosphere, and then departed about 4,000 years ago, their world passing near Earth every 3,600 years. In this retelling, people would repeatedly have witnessed their arrivals in ships. If the Sumerians saw such things, their records suggest they would have cast them as sacred rather than technical. Hymns speak of storm-bright descents and radiant processions. Art magnifies divinities over mortals and encodes power in scepters and emblems, not blueprints. Either way, no physical relics, no unknown alloys or crashed craft have been found in ancient Mesopotamia, now chiefly Iraq with parts of Syria, Turkey, and Iran. A Berlin cylinder seal, VA243, shows deities and a star disk encircled by small orbs. Enthusiasts point to it as a map of the solar system, sometimes even adding an extra world, while scholars read it as conventional iconography. The sun, god, and symbolic stars, not astronomy carved to scale. If the Anunnaki were teachers, some ask, why did they leave? Explanations within the mythos range from the mission's completion and resource sufficiency to leadership rifts and catastrophe. Characters such as a stern commander and a compassionate scientist creator dramatize tensions over whether to warn humans about a coming flood, fuel for later tales of factional conflict and retreat. Speculation about their homeworld, often called Nibiru, paints cities beneath reflective domes, harsh weather moderated by technology, and acclimation stations in orbit. An ancient civilization old enough to have once built in stone before mastering metals. These are imaginative reconstructions. Physical corroboration is absent. Alternative scenarios for non-return include a deliberate policy of non-interference, a zoo ethic, self-inflicted decline, or development so advanced, on a Kardashev scale approaching the galactic, that contact with younger civilizations becomes irrelevant. Long lifespans in king lists inspire the notion that such beings could still exist. The idea remains conjectural. A recurring objection is practical. If they were so advanced, why employ human miners at all? Answers proposed within the narrative include uneven technological emphasis, putting breakthroughs into space travel and bioengineering rather than robotics, logistical barriers to off-world industrial supply chains, and even ritual or hierarchical preferences, gods and attendants, where human labor reinforced status in ways machines would not. Astronomical side paths split further. A hypothesized planet X far beyond Neptune could perturb Kuiper Belt objects, but its modeled orbit spans 10 to 20,000 years, not the tidy 3,600-year commuter sometimes claimed for Nibiru. A starless rogue planet would be harder to detect, but wouldn't keep a reliable cycle. And an engineered megastructure is a dramatic idea that still waits for evidence. Moon and Mars claims, towers, domes, tunnels on the Moon, faces and pyramids on Mars have repeatedly been drawn back to geology, optics, and resolution. Later, sharper images tend to melt the mysteries that earlier silhouettes suggested, even if curiosity never quite lets go. Modern cases sometimes rhyme with older motifs. Lights among trees in an English forest, a metallic egg-shaped craft near a New Mexico arroyo, a sweeping V of lights over Phoenix. The pattern, luminous objects, nearby figures, cryptic symbols, mirrors elements found in ancestral stories of radiant teachers. Parallels are compelling. They are not proof. Art and symbols seem to echo across time and space. A ritual bag or bucket appearing in Mesopotamia, at Göbekli Tepe, and in Mesoamerican pieces. Deliberate skull elongation across multiple continents, stepped pyramids built independently in Egypt, Mesopotamia, Mesoamerica, China, the Andes, Southeast Asia, and Cambodia. Mainstream explanations point to convergence, similar needs and materials leading to similar solutions. Pyramids being the safest way to build tall without steel or cranes, and mountains serving as universal metaphors for reaching the sacred. If you want a modern analogy for how contact myths can form, look to Melanesia in World War II. Island communities watched aircraft and carriers spill unimaginable cargo, then built runways of torches and wooden planes in the hope the abundance would return. Awe at unfamiliar technology can crystallize into ritual, and then into myth. In the end, the hypothesis of otherworldly teachers remains unproven. Monumental works and luminous beings in our oldest stories can be read through human ingenuity, cultural exchange, and step-by-step innovation. Staying genuinely open-minded means pursuing hard evidence, materials not of Earth, records impossible for their time, biological anomalies, while letting imagination frame bold questions, not final answers.